This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Halloween Podcast. I am your host, Lyle Perez, and you're listening to a very special episode of our series, The Dark Record, where we uncover history's eeriest stories, one strange and unsettling case at a time. If you listened to the end of our last episode on the Oakville Blobs, you already know that tomorrow's full episode will be about the Black Knight satellite. But before we launch into orbit, we're taking a quick detour to the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Later today, Megan and I will be releasing an interview with best-selling author Allison Richman about her new book, The Missing Pages, a story tied closely to the Titanic. And to get you ready for that conversation, this special Dark Record episode takes us straight to the heart of one of the most enduring legends connected to the disaster, the ghost of the man who commanded the ship. In April of 1912, Captain Edward John Smith stood at the helm of the RMS Titanic, the world's most famous luxury liner. When it sank, his name became legend. But over the years, that legend has taken a darker turn. Stories of his ghost, strange sightings, and even a haunted mirror said to hold his reflection. The next entry into the Dark Record, the ghost of Captain Edward Smith. Let's begin. Edward John Smith was born on January 27, 1850, in the heart of England's industrial centre, Hanley, Staffordshire. It wasn't a place of salt air and harbour bells, but of coal dust and pottery kilns. The son of a potter, Smith's early years were marked by the rhythms of factory life, not the sea. But like so many in the 19th century, his ambitions reached far beyond the smoke-stained rooftops of home. The ocean, for him, was not just an escape, it was a calling. At the age of 17, Smith began his maritime career as an apprentice with the Merchant Navy. The sea was harsh, and promotion came only with grit and endurance. He earned his master's certificate in 1875, proving his skill as a navigator and leader. By 1880, he joined the White Star Line, a shipping company that catered to both passengers and cargo. It would be the company that defined his life. Smith was steady, dependable, and deeply respected. In an era when captains weren't just crew, but symbols of trust, he fit the mold perfectly. He climbed the ranks, taking command of various vessels, including the Baltic and the Adriatic. Over the years, he earned a reputation as a man who delivered passengers to their destinations without incident. Crew members described him as calm, professional, and capable of projecting a quiet authority that made even the roughest voyages feel routine. By the early 1900s, Smith had become known as the millionaire's captain. Wealthy travelers preferred to book their passages on ships he commanded, trusting his judgment and steady hand. He was the sort of captain who inspired confidence, a vital quality in an era when crossing the Atlantic still carried real dangers. His demeanor was so composed that passengers often remarked on how safe they felt with him on board. For Smith, it was a source of pride. His rise coincided with the height of the Edwardian era, a period when luxury ocean liners weren't just ships. They were floating palaces. The White Star Line's ambition was to dominate this new age of transatlantic travel, and Smith stood at the center of it all. When the company prepared to launch its crown jewel, the RMS Titanic, there was only one logical choice to command her. The Titanic represented everything the White Star Line wanted the world to see: power, luxury, and modern engineering that seemed to promise invincibility. It was larger than any passenger ship that had come before it, with lavish staterooms, grand staircases, electric lighting, and ornate dining salons. In newspapers, it was called unsinkable. For Edward Smith, it wasn't just another ship. It was the culmination of a lifetime at sea. At 62 years old, Smith was already planning to retire after this voyage. Commanding the Titanic was intended to be his final triumph, a graceful exit from a long and distinguished career. He had no idea that it would instead become the defining moment of his life and his death. When Titanic prepared to leave Southampton on April 10, 1912, the docks were crowded with onlookers, passengers, and crew bustling to set sail. Smith stood on the bridge, a tall man with a full white beard, his captain's uniform immaculate. To many, he embodied the very spirit of the ship, strong, unshakable, destined for greatness. His presence alone gave people comfort. The world was already paying attention. The Titanic wasn't just another voyage, it was an event. Among the passengers were some of the wealthiest people in the world: John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus. But there were also immigrants and working-class families below decks, hoping to build new lives in America. All of them, regardless of class or country, were under Smith's watch. Another name worth remembering is Harry Widener, whose story is also tied to the Titanic. You'll hear more about him in our interview with Allison Richmond later today. In those final days before disaster, there's little record of any unease. Smith was confident, the crew was efficient, and passengers were enthralled by the ship's elegance. Ice warnings would come in over the wireless, as they did on many voyages, but no one, including the captain, imagined they posed a serious threat to a vessel so advanced. When the Titanic slipped away from England, Captain Edward Smith was at the height of his career, a man who had spent decades building a reputation of trust. In just a few nights, his name would be known to the entire world, not for the safe crossings that came before, but for the most infamous disaster in maritime history.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
On April 14, 1912, the RMS Titanic sailed under a moonless sky. The ocean stretched out like a black mirror, still and cold. It had been a smooth voyage so far, almost unnervingly calm. Captain Edward Smith moved through the ship with quiet confidence. At 62, this was the culmination of a long career at sea. In just a few weeks, he would be retired, remembered as the steady hand behind some of the grandest crossings in history. But history had other plans. In the hours leading up to the collision, Titanic received a series of iceberg warnings from nearby ships. Most were routine for the time. The wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, were busy sending passengers personal messages to Cape Race. Some of the warnings were acknowledged, others set aside to be delivered later. At 9:30 p.m., the Mesaba sent a message describing a large field of ice directly in Titanic's path. At 10:55 p.m., the Californian's warning was cut short. Phillips, overwhelmed by traffic, told them to shut up and return later. None of those final messages ever reached Captain Smith. At 11:40 p.m., lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee spotted something looming out of the darkness, a massive iceberg dead ahead. Fleet rang the bell 3 times and called the bridge. First Officer Murdoch ordered hard a starboard, and engines reversed, but at 22 knots, there was little time. The Titanic turned slightly, but not enough. The berg scraped along her starboard side, opening a series of jagged wounds beneath the waterline. The collision barely registered to many passengers. There was no catastrophic crash, no violent shaking. It was a soft, glancing blow. But down below, seawater was already flooding into the forward compartments at an astonishing rate. When Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, inspected the damage, he delivered the grim truth to Captain Smith. The Titanic would sink. Not might, would, in about 2 hours. Accounts from that night describe Smith as calm, but pale. He walked the bridge quietly, listening, as Andrews explained that the ship could stay afloat with 4 compartments breached, but not 6. And 6 were already taking on water. Smith ordered the wireless operators to send distress signals and for the crew to prepare the lifeboats. His words were crisp, direct, controlled. One of the most haunting aspects of the Titanic disaster was the lifeboat situation. There were only 20 boats for more than 2,200 people, enough for roughly half on board. At 12:05 a.m., Captain Smith gave the order to begin loading and lowering the boats. First-class passengers were escorted up to the boat deck as crew tried to maintain order. Smith moved from station to station, issuing instructions, answering questions, urging his crew to work quickly. Survivors would later remember his quiet presence on deck. He wasn't panicked. He didn't shout. His calm seemed to steady those around him, at least in the early stages. But as the minutes passed, it became clear that things were unraveling. Boats were launched half empty. Many passengers refused to leave the supposedly unsinkable ship, and confusion spread. Around 12:30 a.m., the Carpathia received Titanic's distress call. Smith was informed help was on the way, but the nearest ship was still hours off. Time was running out. By 1:30 a.m., the bow of the ship had sunk noticeably lower. The band continued to play on the deck, and the freezing Atlantic air grew sharper with every passing minute. Crew members later recalled seeing Captain Smith near the bridge, quietly watching the chaos unfold. He reportedly gave the wireless operators permission to abandon their posts. One of the last orders heard from him was simple: every man for himself. And then, sometime between 2:10 and 2:20 a.m., the ship's lights flickered and went out. The Titanic rose almost vertically, then broke apart. At 2:20 a.m., she slipped beneath the surface, disappearing into the freezing black water. What happened to Captain Smith in those final moments has never been confirmed. Some survivors claimed they saw him dive into the water from the bridge. Others insisted they spotted him near Collapsible B, helping people into the last boats. A few claimed they saw his face in the water, holding a child. Still others swore they heard his final words to the crew: "Be British." But no one truly knows. His body was never recovered. Like over 1,500 others, Edward Smith vanished into the Atlantic. In the days following the disaster, the image of Captain Smith solidified in the public mind, the steadfast captain who stood at his post until the end. In newspaper illustrations, he was shown on the bridge, facing the storm head-on, a tragic but noble figure. The man who had spent his life guiding ships safely across the ocean became, in death, the embodiment of doomed heroism. But what happens when someone's story ends without a body, without a grave, and without closure? That kind of death doesn't stay quiet. It lingers. It grows. And before long, Captain Edward Smith was no longer just a captain. He was a ghost. In the weeks after the Titanic sank, grief swept across the Atlantic like a fog. Newspapers were filled with photos of the dead, stories of heroism, and unanswered questions. But among the swirling details of the tragedy, one figure seemed to loom larger than the rest: Captain Edward John Smith. He had been the face of the ship, and when the ship went down, he went with it. No body, no grave, just the cold ocean. When there's no grave, legends have a way of filling the silence. The first whispers of Captain Smith's ghost began not at sea, but on land, back in Staffordshire, England. Locals claimed that strange things began happening inside his childhood home. The house was ordinary, red brick, and still standing on a quiet street. But neighbors talked of sudden cold spots, doors closing on their own, and a figure glimpsed in the kitchen window when no one was inside. Some swore it was a tall man in a captain's coat, his face pale as frost. Stories of sightings spread quickly. Former sailors spoke of seeing a man who looked like Smith walking along docks in Southampton, sometimes appearing near the spot where Titanic had departed. They said he was always silent, wearing the same white-bearded expression etched into the newspapers from 1912. A figure caught in time. Then came the more unsettling claims: encounters at sea. A handful of crewmen on merchant vessels reported seeing a man in an officer's uniform standing at the bow of their ship on fog-covered nights. He would appear without warning, staring toward the horizon as if guiding a vessel that no longer existed. When approached, he vanished. These accounts were whispered below deck, dismissed in the daylight, but never quite forgotten. But perhaps the most chilling story of all began decades later, when a mirror surfaced. A tall, silver-framed mirror said to have belonged to Captain Smith himself. According to a handwritten letter, the housekeeper who kept the mirror after his death claimed that on the anniversary of the sinking, she could sometimes see his reflection in the glass. not behind her, in the glass, staring back. This letter stayed with the mirror as it passed through owners and eventually arrived at auction in Staffordshire in 2018, where it was labeled haunted. The idea that a man who died without a grave might be staring out from an old mirror caught the public's imagination. For some, it was just a story. For others, it felt like proof that Captain Smith was still out there, somewhere between history and haunting. It said that a ship's captain never truly leaves his post. Maybe that's why, more than a century later, some still claim to feel a presence near the docks, in old homes, and yes, in a mirror.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
The mirror is simple at first glance, an antique silver-framed easel mirror, elegant but unremarkable. But like so many haunted objects, it isn't the look that unsettles people, it's the story attached to it. According to its handwritten letter of provenance, the mirror once sat in Captain Edward Smith's bedroom at his home in Staffordshire. After the Titanic disaster, the housekeeper is said to have inherited the mirror. The note claimed that on several occasions, particularly on the anniversary of the sinking, she saw the captain's reflection staring back at her. Not a flash of light, not a trick of the eyes, a full figure, silent, watching. The story might have faded into local folklore if not for what happened decades later. In 2018, the mirror resurfaced at an auction house in Staffordshire, accompanied by that same letter. Bidders weren't just interested in its Titanic connection, they came for the legend. Auctioneers described it openly as haunted, a mirror said to hold the spirit of the ship's captain. It drew ghost hunters, collectors, and skeptics alike. One of the most chilling details? The letter described the captain's image appearing as if from behind the glass, like he was trapped on the other side. Paranormal investigators have long held that mirrors are liminal spaces, thin boundaries between the living and the dead. They've been called spirit windows and doorways, places where energy lingers. For believers, a man who died without a grave might choose an object from his home to anchor himself to. For skeptics, of course, it's just a mirror with a good story attached. But either way, the tale has grown. The mirror isn't the only object tied to Smith's restless legend. Artifacts recovered from Titanic often carry their own whispered stories. Museum staff have spoken of cold spots near display cases, or the feeling of someone standing just behind them while they work alone at night. Visitors have claimed to smell salt air in rooms with Titanic relics. Some say they've heard faint tapping, as if on glass, when passing by exhibits of navigational tools or personal belongings. One of the eerier claims comes from the Titanic museums themselves. Employees at multiple locations have reported seeing a tall man in a dark coat walking near exhibits late at night, only to find no one there. Some even swear the figure resembles the old captain himself, beard and all. It's easy to imagine Smith's presence attached to the ship he commanded, or to the objects that once surrounded him. In life, he was calm and steady, a captain in full control. In legend, he's become something colder, quieter, a shadow anchored to a mirror, a ship, or a memory that refuses to fade. Haunted stories have a way of growing in the cracks between fact and feeling. Captain Edward Smith's ghost is no different. For every sailor's tale, for every shadowy figure seen in a museum hallway, there's someone ready to offer a quieter explanation. Take the haunted mirror, for example. When it went up for auction in 2018, its legend brought headlines across England. But its provenance, the actual chain of ownership linking it to Smith himself, is murky at best. The only documentation is a handwritten letter from the 1920s claiming that Smith's housekeeper had once seen his face appear on the anniversary of the sinking. The identity of that housekeeper has never been verified. No photograph, no sworn statement, just ink and paper. Skeptics point out that mirrors are perfect breeding grounds for superstition. Reflections shift with changing light. Dust can create odd shapes. When people expect to see something, their brains can fill in the blanks, especially when they're already thinking about a ghost. Then, there are the reported sightings of Smith's figure on ships and in museums. Many of these encounters happen late at night, in dimly lit spaces, often when someone is alone. It's the perfect recipe for suggestion. A uniformed mannequin glimpsed in low light, a reflection in a glass case, footsteps echoing from somewhere else in the building. Human imagination has been mistaking shadows for centuries. But skepticism doesn't erase why these stories exist. Captain Smith wasn't just a man. He became an icon the moment Titanic slipped beneath the waves. To many, he embodied the romantic idea of the steadfast captain who went down with the ship. His face, with its commanding beard and calm eyes, was plastered on newspapers and memorial programs across 2 continents. In the wake of such a colossal tragedy, it's no surprise that people looked for his presence long after he was gone. There's something haunting about a man who dies at sea and is never recovered. No grave, no marker, no closure. The ocean itself becomes the tomb. In folklore, figures like that rarely stay quiet. Their stories become vessels for the emotions people can't quite put down. Guilt, fear, awe, fascination. Over a century later, the Titanic is still one of the most recognized disasters in modern history. It represents more than a shipwreck. It's a story about arrogance, class, technology, and loss. And at the center of it all stands one man in a captain's coat, forever tied to the moment the unsinkable ship slipped away. Whether or not Captain Smith's ghost lingers near the mirror, the dock, or beneath the dark Atlantic, his legend endures. Some say it's just a story. Others swear they felt something colder. Whatever the truth, his presence has become part of the Titanic's mythology, a shadow in the background that refuses to disappear. Every legend has a center, a place where the facts end and the shadows begin. For Captain Edward Smith, that shadow seems to settle somewhere between the rolling waves of the North Atlantic and the cold, still surface of an antique mirror. There's something about this story that lingers with me. Maybe it's because Titanic is more than just a historical tragedy. It's a symbol of human belief colliding with reality. We built a ship so mighty, so luxurious, so sure of itself, that even nature was supposed to bend around it. And at the center of that promise stood one man in uniform, steady as a lighthouse. But when the ocean swallowed the Titanic, it swallowed him too. No body to mourn, no grave to visit, just a name in the headlines, a face frozen in time. People don't let stories like that go quietly. They build something around them, something bigger, and sometimes they build a ghost. I think what makes the legend of Captain Smith so unsettling isn't just the idea of a spirit wandering docks or trapped in a mirror. It's the thought of a man who dedicated his entire life to the sea, only to vanish into it without a trace. It's the way that silence feels heavier than a haunting scream. The mirror especially gets me. It's such a simple thing, a household object, something most of us look into every day. But attach a story to it, and suddenly it becomes a doorway. We start imagining what's on the other side, who might be looking back. Whether it's real or not almost doesn't matter. It's the possibility that unnerves us. The Titanic story isn't just remembered, it's felt. People who visit exhibits talk about cold spots, uneasy feelings, the sense that they're not entirely alone, whether that's the weight of history pressing down or something else entirely. It's a reminder that some events leave a deeper mark than time can wash away. Captain Smith has become more than a captain. He's a symbol of loss, of dignity, of tragedy, and maybe of unfinished business. For some, he's a ghost still walking the deck of a ship that no longer exists. For others, he's a face in a mirror that won't stop staring back. When I think about Smith's legend, I don't just imagine a spirit haunting an old object. I imagine the weight of an entire story pressing against the glass. A reminder that history isn't just what happened, it's what refuses to leave.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
That brings us to the end of this special episode of The Dark Record. We followed the life of Captain Edward John Smith from the quiet streets of Hanley to the bridge of the RMS Titanic, through the final moments of the sinking, and into the legends that rose in the wake of his disappearance. A man once celebrated for his steady hand became a ghost story whispered across generations, in ports, on ships, and in front of a single silver frame mirror. Whether you believe in hauntings or not, Some stories have a way of clinging to the places and objects they touch. Captain Smith left behind no grave, but he left behind a legend. And legends, as we've seen time and again, have a way of never staying buried. Tomorrow, we'll be releasing the full episode we promised you, The Black Knight Satellite. But later today, we'll also be sharing our conversation with best-selling author Allison Richman about her new novel, The Missing Pages, a story that connects directly to the Titanic and its lingering ghosts. If you've enjoyed this special The Dark Record episode, you won't want to miss that interview. Until then, I'm Lyle Perez, and this has been the Halloween Podcast presenting The Dark Record. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps keep the show alive and weird. You can also explore sources, extras, and more at our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehalloweenpodcast or at our website, thehalloweenpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Keep your eyes on the shadows. And remember, Edward Smith went down with the Titanic, but some legends never sink. Have a good night.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.